Hello and welcome to the 25K Q&A Spectacular. Thank you to everybody who left us a question in the previous video. Once I tallied up everything, it was over 150 questions, so obviously there's a lot to go through in this video. So let me just quickly give you the breakdown and how the video is going to work. I tried to separate each question into different categories: questions about theme park history, questions about my opinion on theme parks, and then random questions that don't correlate to either of the two that I just mentioned. Also, I tried to combine as many of the similar base questions as possible, just so I'm not repeating myself over and over again in this video. And let me just apologize to you right now if I mispronounce your name. It wouldn't be the first time I mispronounced something on this channel, am I right? Also, let me apologize if the video seems a little bit rushed. I did give myself the weekend, but on Sunday when I was recording the answers, Audacity crapped out on me halfway through, so I lost about an hour of voice recording. So yeah, you can obviously understand if I'm a little bit pissed off right now. So without further ado, let's get into your questions and let the 25K Q&A begin.
Let's go!
Our first question comes from Peter Doan, Astra Oza, Austin Hudson, Julian Sierski, Brian Escobar, Hard Hat Safe 78, Phantom Star Productions, and Katie Barnett, who ask, what inspired you to create theme park history? So the inspiration for the channel actually came from a Christmas gift I received last year from my sister. I'm a big fan of theme parks. I've been going to them since I'm 4 years old, whether it be Disney or Universal. So last year she got me a gift that I consider to be a legit piece of theme park history. I received a 1989 Universal Studios Florida brochure. If you don't know what the brochures are, they're at the hotels, motels, they're at the airports, I believe, in Florida. Basically, they're just pamphlets that advertise parks and other attractions as a way for you to come to the park itself. Why this 1989 Universal Studios Florida pamphlet, this brochure? Why is it so important to myself? Well, for two reasons. Number one, it's a year before the park even opened, so that's pretty impressive to actually have a piece of this still lying around in pretty good condition, I might add. And number two, since the park was still being built at the time, there's no actual photos of the attractions working because obviously they're still in the building phase. So everything in the book is artwork, and I love the art style. I try to incorporate as much of the concept art as possible in the videos that we do. Also, it's pretty cool to see these attractions go from just art designs and drawings to actual full-blown attractions that we all came to know and love. So while I was looking through the attractions on Christmas Day, I realized that outside of E.T., none of the attractions actually still exist at Universal Studios Florida. So I was kind of curious about what happened to these attractions, what's the story behind them, and just like anybody else who's curious, you go to Google, or you go to YouTube in this case. And I was shocked to find out that on YouTube there is barely any coverage of Universal Studios theme parks. Disney has a lot about their history, no doubt about that. So right there I decided that I was going to create a YouTube channel dedicated to the history of Universal Studios and its theme parks. Eventually that concept would grow into more due to the suggestion of family and friends saying that, you know, people are going to ask you to cover Disney attractions and other parks in the future. So we just went from Universal theme park history to just theme park history. Why theme park history? Well, nobody actually took the name on YouTube. I know the name's broad and generic, but guess what? It describes the content we're creating. And honestly, not just myself, but other content creators make theme park history videos. So when you search for theme park history, whether it be on YouTube or Google, usually our channel is one of the first search results. So yay for search engine optimization. But that's basically the story behind theme park history. I received a gift from my sister, was curious about the history of Universal attractions, so nobody was really making anything about it, and I wanted to do the parks its justice. Our next question comes from Fluffy Tiger and Genie Bill, who want to know what is the process when creating a theme park history video. So the process breaks down to three parts. It's research and writing, voiceover work, and video editing. For myself, a video takes about 10 to 12 days to put together. That way we're able to get 2 videos out every month. Also, I give myself an extra 2 days for rest and relaxation, or if I need to get a head start on the next video. For research and writing, that's pretty self-explanatory. We start searching for information on the internet about the attraction we're going to cover, whether it's about the ride system being used, the attraction itself, or something that correlates to the history of the theme park attraction, including the park that it's in. This source information can come from news articles, can come from newspapers, it can come from reviews, official official information from the theme parks that have been released. Books have become very popular for us in finding the information we use for the videos. Once we feel that we have enough information, we start working on the script for the video itself. Obviously, there's a format to it. There's an intro, there's a history section, there's the ride portion, there's a closure where changes to the attraction, and then there's an outro. Some people don't like that. I personally think it's easy to work with, and it kind of always does what I want it to do, which is to tell a story in each video that we create. Also, it's a lot easier for me to put together a video knowing that I'm breaking it down to 5 different sections according to the script. So once we finish the script itself, we start doing the voiceover work, which takes me about 4 to 5 hours in a day. That's because I usually do about 2 or 3 takes of the script and then use the best portions of each, usually depending on the tone and whether or not I'm kind of just mumbling my words. Right now, this is the hardest part of the video for myself because I'm just trying to get down the speech better. I've been starting to take lessons. I've been trying to teach myself. I've been doing actually mouth exercises, so my jaw is much more loose when we're actually doing the recording. Once we feel we have a good track to work with, then we start putting the video together, which obviously is using promotional video of the attraction we're covering, POVs of the ride itself. If there's construction photos or video, we include that, and obviously anything else that correlates to what we're talking about. Usually this is the easiest part for me because when I'm putting the script together, I have an idea of what I want to include when it comes to footage and whatnot. Obviously, when you're talking about the ride, you know you want to include ride footage. Obviously, when you're talking about construction or details of the attraction itself, if there's behind the scenes footage, we obviously include that in that portion. So for me, there's very few times where I'm left scratching my head trying to figure out what can I put here that correlates to what we're talking about. Once the video is finally put together and it gets the green light to be uploaded, then it's just the busybody work of YouTube, which is doing the tags, the title, the thumbnail, including the sources in the video itself. Basically what you just have to do when you upload a video to YouTube. When I started, it was kind of daunting to try to get a video out every 2 weeks. Now, since I've been doing it for almost a year, it's kind of a cakewalk with the exception of the longer videos that we do, but in that case, I do make sure to give myself more time. Infinite Images asks, is it just you, or is there a team of people who help make these sweet videos? It's not just me, it's my sister as well. I guess it's ironic that not only is she the inspiration behind theme park history, but she's a part of it. I do most of the work though. It's about an 85-15 split. I'm the one who's doing the research and writing the script. I'm the one doing the voiceover work. I'm the one who puts the video together, but she plays a very crucial part because she does all the reviews of the script and the video itself before we actually decide to start going forward and working on any other part. Basically, I'll do a rough draft of this script and I'll send it to her and she'll make any changes accordingly. And once we start putting together the video and I send her the first rough draft of it, she'll once again do the same thing. Nothing comes to YouTube until she greenlights the video itself. She's also responsible for the thumbnails that you see and the channel artwork. Without her, I'd probably be lost because I suck at Photoshop. I feel confident enough in the content I'm creating, but it's always nice to have somebody there to bounce off of, basically tell you that your content does suck at times. And really, I think the overall quality is better because of that. So if you're watching this, sis, thank you so much for your help. Really do appreciate it. Hispanic Hood Incorporated wants to know if we can see the list. So you want to see the list. You want to see the list that I keep after every time you guys make a suggestion, I put it on the list. I mean, honestly, did you think I kept a list? You know how many times I would have to keep adding stuff to the list? Oh yeah, wait, I do have a list. Here it is. It's a legit list that I've been using on and off again for the last year. Basically, once somebody makes a suggestion, I write it down in the book, and every time that attraction gets another suggestion, you obviously see it gets a tally mark. Once I run out of room, I basically just square it off, meaning that, hey, you gotta make a video on it sometime in the near future. I know what you're all saying. Hey man, there's been attractions here since February that I've asked for that you haven't done yet. What gives? That's our discretion. Sometimes I just don't want to do Universal attractions over and over and over again. I want to try to shake it up a bit, but don't worry. The attractions you're seeing right now, they're squared off. They'll get their videos sometime in 2019. But yeah, there's a legit list. That's a lot of writing and tallying I have to keep up, by the way. The California Chica asks, are you planning on branching out more to include Knott's, SeaWorld, and Six Flags? And the answer to that question is yes. We'll be covering those theme parks in 2019. I know that's been one of the biggest gripes of the channel so far, that all we've done really is Universal and Disney, but that's because that's what you guys, the viewers, have suggested in the comment section. But I think in 2019, I'll be able to diversify every park we're covering, including the 3 you just mentioned, along with other smaller parks and theme parks located in Europe. Again, the goal is to diversify theme park history, not just to be about Universal and Disney, but every theme park possible as well. Hence the slogan, old and new, big and small, doesn't matter what it is, we plan on trying to cover it to our our best. Jacqueline Canelo wants to know how many episodes of theme park history do you want to make, and will you make any other shows on the channel? You know, I've never really thought about how many episodes I want to make, but if you said throw out a number, I'll probably say 100. 100's a nice round number, and I'm pretty sure there's 100 theme park attractions we can cover, and at the rate we go, that would be 5 years of videos. I think that's a good time frame for us. So let's say 100 at least. As for other shows on the channel, we have something planned as well for early 2019. It's not going to be a major show that we're going to do. It's not going to be a podcast, but I think it's going to be a nice complement to what we do already with theme park history. So stay tuned for that. We'll probably have more details out probably January or February. MaxD327 wants to know if there's any collaborations in the works. We're talking with 2 other channels right now to do collaborations sometime in 2019. I can't let you know what channels because nothing's official yet and I don't want to ruin the surprise, or better yet, get your hopes up and then nothing actually happened. But I definitely could tell you we're working right now possibly with 2 other channels to have a collaboration either here on the channel or theme park history shown up somewhere else. Big Nath Gaming wants to know what was the hardest video we've ever made. Hardest video hands down was Halloween Horror Nights because of all the footage we had to look for, all the information we had to research. 28 years of an event is a very long time, and that video was the longest it took to put together, almost 4.5 weeks. Also, with it being the hardest, it's probably, in my opinion, the worst video I've done because that's not the original concept I wanted to do. Originally, we were going to cover all 4 events at Hollywood, Orlando, Singapore, and Japan, but because of time constraints, I had to cut it down just to Orlando. Basically, if I had kept it that long, you would have never seen the video. Well, you know what? I take that back. It's December. You would have probably seen it sometime in November, obviously missing the point of having a Halloween-themed video come out in October. But I wouldn't worry because I'm going to go back to Halloween Horror Nights and I'm going to take a look at the Hollywood, Singapore, and Japan events in separate videos. At least that way I'm still going to be able to cover the entire history of Halloween Horror Nights. Our next question comes from Nicholas DeJesus, Brandon Lee, Sydney B, sorry Sydney about your last name, I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I'm going to butcher it bad, and Elizabeth, who asked, what is your favorite video? I think it's a toss-up between Spider-Man and E.T. I think Spider-Man's our most complete video so far to date. That intro is really cool, and I think each section of the video is well done. I don't feel like there's really anything lacking of it, but personally, I like the E.T. video the most. I really like the E.T. attraction. I think it was the first attraction I went on when I visited the park back when I was 4 or 5, and honestly, I think that's our best well-paced video, which means there's a constant flow to it, it never feels like it slags or gets boring, and it also gave me an excuse to talk about the history of one of my favorite parks, Universal Studios Florida. Noah Santana and Zachary Anderson want a face reveal. Sorry guys, no face reveal today. You're not missing out on much. I say I'm a 6 out of 10 at best, and I'm known more for my personality than my looks. But how about this? I'm gonna be a sellout here. I'm gonna say if the channel ever hits 100,000 subscribers, that's when I'll do a face reveal. And once I do that face reveal, you're gonna be disappointed, and I'm gonna tell you it was a 6 out of 10 at best. And our last question about theme park history comes from Zachary Strange, who asks, what's your name and story? So I thought I had said my name in some shape or form in a video before, but I actually didn't. So my name is Jack, and I'm an Aries. I like cats more than dogs. I like long walks on the beach. I like video games. I like basketball. I've been playing basketball since I'm 3 years old, and I believe that pineapple on pizza is a sin and should be banned. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you about my story. You'll probably find out more about me in the next section when it's your questions about theme parks in general. This question comes from It's in a Dino's DNA, who asks, do you like Disney or Universal better? I think by now, if you've watched enough of this channel, you have an idea which theme parks I prefer. Obviously, that would be Universal. Nothing against Disney, but I've been going to Universal more as a kid than I did to Disney parks, and I also like the layout that Universal has with its theme park attractions themselves. I always felt with the old school Disney attractions, you're just along for the ride, you're not actually part of it, while Universal did a really good job of making you, the guest, feel that you were very important to everything that was taking place in the attraction. You know, nothing against Pirates of the Caribbean, or It's a Small World, or Space Mountain. You know, I don't feel like the immersion is there. But with Jaws, you're part of the boat tour. With Kong, you're on a tram trying to escape from him. Back to the Future, you're helping Doc Brown try to capture Biff. Hanna-Barbera, you're with Yogi and Boo Boo trying to get back, what's his name? I forgot the kid's name from the Jetsons. God, it's been such a long time. But you know what I'm talking about. And even now, you look at it, Revenge of the Mummy, you're trying to escape from Imhotep. Harry Potter, you're kind of involved in the story itself. Men in Black, you're trying to become the next guy in the suit. And even in E.T., Steven Spielberg says you're gonna help E.T. get back to the green planet. So I've always, as a kid, gravitated more towards that type of attraction than just Disney. Obviously, Disney's kind of changed that up now, but Universal's been doing it for such a long time. I think that's a preference of mine. Also, another thing that I like is that I can do Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida in one day if I have to. I feel like you can't really do that with the Disney parks, especially at Walt Disney World. I know you could do that in California because they're right across the street from each other, but if I go on vacation to Florida and I only have a week, Disney's really trying to push my buttons because I know that I need at least 4 days to do each park. And for the Disney parks, I'm not really a huge fan of wanting to do a half a day, let's say at Animal Kingdom, and then trying to drive over and do a half day at Disney Hollywood Studios. Just seems like it would be very exhausting and just frustrating to me. You don't really get to enjoy the parks if all you're doing is driving around to all of them. I'd rather spend my entire day there. So that's basically the reasons why. I just like the stories for the attractions Universal tells, and I like the fact that I can go to both parks 2 or 3 times over my vacation and visit both parks without having to rush through them. Don't get me wrong though, I like Disney, but if I only could go to one on vacation, I'll always take Universal. Disney Adorkable asks, what's your feeling about Disney following in Universal's footsteps? How they're replacing old rides with new ones? I don't see that being a bad thing. I know Disney is number one, they don't really have to worry about their competition as much, but I also feel like you have to do stuff every once in a while to refresh your park. Give people a reason to come back to your park. I think it's probably ambitious of Disney to want to bring in attractions based off of Marvel, Pixar, Frozen, and Star Wars, but guess what? That's making Disney billions of dollars at the box office, and there's no way they're gonna not pass that up to bring those IPs to the park. Now, I will say, for Disney fans, I wouldn't get that worried. I don't think things like Space Mountain and Haunted Mansion are gonna go away anytime soon. I think you're gonna see a mix of these IP-based attractions along with the classics staying at the parks. Honestly, too, I don't think they're gonna have a lifespan of like 3 or 4 years like some of the Universal attractions do. They're gonna be able to stand out on their own, and I think they're gonna be able to be enjoyed by anybody, and you won't really have to watch the movies to actually enjoy and know what's going on with those attractions. So I think Disney has to do it, but I don't think they're gonna be dumb enough to remove the classic attractions that help establish them as the place to go for theme parks. Stephen Golden asks, what would you say is the best ride Universal and Disney wrongfully got rid of? What do you think is the worst ride they've kept? So for Disney, this is always going to be my answer. I don't think it's ever going to change. I think the best attraction they got rid of when they shouldn't have was Journey into Imagination. I love that attraction. I think it's one of the best attractions they've built. It was one of the best attractions at Epcot for a very long time. So what did they decide to do with Journey into Imagination? Take everything that made it great. The characters, the music, the lights, the sounds, and the charm of it. Get rid of all that, throw it in the trash, and give us Journey into Your Imagination, which is a piece of crap of an attraction. I don't know why they did it. I know they did it because they had to do a sponsorship deal, they wanted to refurb the attraction, but they could have just kept it the same and people would have really enjoyed it. I mean, Journey into Imagination only lasted 2 years before they had to completely retool it, bring back Figment, and make it into Journey into Your Imagination with Figment, and honestly, that attraction isn't that great as well. Outside of the scene with the Figments, I don't like it. I think that should be the next big project for Epcot. They need to do something with that entire area. Whether you're going to rebuild a brand new Journey into Imagination attraction, or gut it completely and create something new and exciting, it's just sad to see the shape the attraction has become from what it was to what it is now. For Universal, that one's a little bit tougher, because there's a lot of them that I could say, but honestly, most of the attractions from the 90s were kind of beaten up and broken down and either needed a huge refurb or, obviously be replaced. But I think the one that stands out the most to me is Dueling Dragons. I understand it was going to go through changes once Potter was taking over that entire area, but to me, it's disappointing to see what it became because it took away a lot of what made the attraction great. And I'm not just talking about the roller coaster and the ride system behind it, I'm talking about the aesthetics of the actual attraction. I mean, I loved that entrance to Dueling Dragons, the 2 giant statues, fire and ice, it was awesome. I loved the queue, the story that it told, the destruction left behind by both dragons. And then obviously the ride itself is still very good, but eventually they would stop dueling each other and it kind of just lost all of its appeal. Don't get me wrong, Dragon Challenge was still a decent roller coaster, but what it was compared to what it became, it's kind of disappointing in some shape or form if you ask me. As for the worst ride still at Universal, I know some people right away go, haha, Fast and Furious Supercharged, but let's be serious for a minute here. It's Shrek, isn't it? I mean, Shrek is based off a mini sequel between the first and second movie. Didn't the first movie come out in like 2001 or 2003. I'm not sure. It was around that time span. It just makes no sense for that attraction to still be there. The building is beaten up. The attraction is not that great anymore. I don't see what the appeal is of it. I don't know why Universal is still hanging on to it. Maybe it'll change in the next couple years since now they own DreamWorks and they could put something new there. Maybe Kung Fu Panda like they did in Hollywood. But I honestly think if there's an attraction that has to go at Universal Studios Florida, the first one on that list should be Shrek 4D. Peter McLean asks, what do you think Disney will add to the theme parks with the Fox purchase? Or will they add anything at all to the parks? You know, that's a tough one because I really can't think of any movies from 20th Century Fox that would fit into a Disney theme park. I mean, I would love to see Alien actually get its own theme park attraction, but I don't know if Disney's willing to take that risk, especially after Alien Encounter and the feedback they got from that. Maybe Ice Age? I think Ice Age is 20th Century Fox. It would make sense, right? You could put Ice Age in Animal Kingdom. Kind of fits the molds, same type of deal. It's a kid attraction. Movies did pretty well. You could do that. Obviously, there's been the question about what happens with The Simpsons now. I think it'd be really weird to see The Simpsons hanging around at Disney Park. Doesn't really fit the mold of what they're looking for. Sure, it could be a way to draw people into the park, but honestly, how much more years does The Simpsons have on television? And what's the popularity of The Simpsons? Is it still going to be something worth going to a park for, worth spending millions of dollars on? I'm going to say no. So I think if you said pick one, I'd probably say Ice Age, put it in Animal Kingdom, and boom, you have a brand new ride. Mike the Bike asks, what's your opinion of the Jurassic Park re-theme, and how would you rank the Jurassic Park films? I was cautiously optimistic when they made the announcement, because I figured if they're spending a year to refurb the attraction, not much of the original attraction would change. Obviously, the ride system would stay in place, and most of the story elements wouldn't change at all. But since more and more of the rumors have been coming out about what they're going to do to the attraction, I'm actually going back to being my pessimistic self for Universal. If you haven't paid attention, there's been rumors lately of most of the animatronics being replaced with screens. Really smart move, Universal, I'm giving that to you. And lately there's been construction photos that show after the first dip that now that it's going to be totally enclosed. Which makes me think, what are you doing now? Is that entire first room going to just be screen-based? Are you going to make the entire attraction now enclosed? It's really weird, but also, what's the right word here? I'm curious to see what's going to happen, because it might be a total disaster, but it might be a glorious disaster in some shape or form. The only thing I look really forward to is the rumors that the finale is going to have an Indominus Rex animatronic fighting a T-Rex, and that could be a really cool scene to see. But then again, they only have a year to do this, so I don't know how well put together it's going to be. As for the Jurassic Park films, my list from best to worst go Jurassic Park 3, The Lost World Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Maverick Archer asks, what is your favorite original Universal Studios ride? So it's going to be technical to some extent because I'm about to say a ride that originally was there, but it's not the version that I like, and that's Jaws. Jaws is my favorite original ride, but not the 1990 version, which barely anybody got to experience. Talked about when it reopened in 1993, I think it was. I think that is the best original attraction that opened with the park. Now, I know some people are going to say, technically that's not it. It was the 1990 version. So if you're going to be technical and say, I can't choose that Jaws, then it's Confrontation, obviously. I like Confrontation. The animatronics are very impressive and the ride's very good. There's just something about Jaws that I gravitate more towards. Maybe because of the situation you're put in. You're in the water with the animatronics. You're on a boat with the sharks in the water. It felt a little bit more real to me. Obviously, people will say, oh, the sharks were fake. Yeah, I get that. But as a kid, even though I knew it wasn't real and I knew the water wasn't that deep and everything was programmed, I still felt, well, what if something goes wrong? What if something happens? It was just this thing in the back of my head where I felt like, yeah, it's fake, but what if? It's kind of like if they had Jaws at a water park. You know it's not real, but you go, yeah, but what if Jaws was at a Universal water park? I don't think people want to go to it. That's why you don't see it at all at Volcano Bay. But yeah, if I can pick, it's Jaws. That's my favorite original attraction at Universal Studios Florida. Straight out of Alderaan, S. Moyhan 777, Boom 12, B Hunt 799, and Gadget Freehand ask, what television show or movie would you want to be made into a theme park ride? Now for TV shows, I really don't think there's anything out currently that you can make into a theme park attraction. Obviously you could say Game of Thrones or Westworld. I don't think that's going to be geared towards, kids and families and stuff. So it's really weird to say, yeah, let's bring Game of Thrones to Universal. Pretty sure the Red Wedding would go over well with a lot of people. But if you said any TV show that I grew up watching, I can give you two. I would like to see the Batman animated series get its own attraction. And I would always love to see a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers attraction be built. Just imagine animatronics with Megazord and the villains and Power Rangers and Rita Repulsa there. I mean, if they ever decided to make an attraction like that, I would be there day one, because the Power Rangers were just, that was my childhood. Those are the TV shows I would suggest. For movies, there's two. One is an obvious that should have been done already, and the other one's much more obscure, but I would still like to see it become an attraction of some sort. The first one is Godzilla. I don't think there's been a Godzilla attraction here in the US yet, and it seems like that is Universal's calling right there for an attraction. A couple years ago, when I was part of the forums and whatnot, and people were like, oh, well, there's these rumors, of disaster finally closing down. I posted this long rant about why Godzilla should come to San Francisco at Universal Studios, Florida. The movie was just coming out, and imagine you being in the BART system, and all of a sudden, the earthquake's happening, but the reality is that there's an actual fight going on between Godzilla and the monsters themselves. And the attraction would somehow end with a giant, massive animatronic Godzilla roaring and screaming at you, and then everything goes dark, and you go on your way. I think that would be awesome, and I'm kind of surprised they haven't tried to do anything yet. Maybe with the new park, we'll see a Godzilla attraction. The other movie I'd like to see made in some type of ride would be Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I know it didn't do well at the box office, but it's one of my favorite comics and one of my favorite movies. I've always imagined it could replace T2 3D, where you're having the fights actually take place on stage, and they transition to some shape or form to a video game world, since that's what the movie's known for. I don't think it could be its full-blown attraction. I don't think there's anything there to make it work, but that's what I always thought. You could put Scott Pilgrim, they got the fights and the special effects and the 3D, and there you go. That replaces Terminator 2 3D. The Coaster Corner asks, what is your favorite roller coaster? Hands down, it's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Walt Disney World. I just love that attraction. It was the first attraction I went on at a Disney park when I was 4 years old, and I still remember it. I still remember the ascension from the cave with the bats and the crystals, and I just like the overall appearance of the attraction itself, being in the mountain and everything. Other roller coasters I would put on my list of favorites are Expedition Everest from Animal Kingdom, Revenge of the Mummy from Universal Studios Florida, Superman, and El Toro from Six Flags Great Adventure. New Jersey Coasters asks, what is the best coaster in the world? For those who don't know, Jason from New Jersey Coasters is a friend of the channel. We did a collaboration with him earlier this year for the theme park history of the Skyway Sky Ride at Six Flags Great Adventure. Jason covers a lot of the East Coast roller coasters and those theme parks. Check him out on his channel. I'll leave a link to it down in the description. He's trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. Take a look and see what you think. As for what I think the best roller coaster in the world is, it's one that I've never gone on, but I think it's one of the most impressive I've ever seen, and that would be the Gatekeeper at Cedar Point. Just something about that type of wing coaster looks so impressive. It actually seems like you're flying and you're not confined to the traditional rail carts that you're in, but also because of the fact that it set so many records when it opened back in 2013. Things like, I think it has the most inversions, which, thinking about it, that's insane for a roller coaster like that. Also, I think it's like the fastest roller coaster, or the fastest wing coaster, I should say. But I've always really liked it, and if you were like, oh, you only could do, well, I don't do those types of roller coasters, but if you forced me to go on one, it would be the Gatekeeper. I think it's one of the best coasters that's been built, and obviously Cedar Point's known for a lot of really good roller coasters. To round out my top three, it would be the Beast at Kings Island, and then I probably would say the Hulk, as I've been told by fans and friends that it's probably one of the best roller coasters they've gone on, so that's probably my top three of what is the best. Zach Hilton and Gummy Gomi ask, what ride do you wish you could have gone on that no longer exists? That attraction would be Alien Encounter. It is my biggest regret as a theme park fan that I never had a chance to actually experience it. So around the time my family was more committed to going to Universal than Disney, but I remember seeing the advertisements for it at the airport and seeing it on billboards, and I was like, this looks really cool. Like, I gotta get there. But my parents were like, nope, don't want to go. So now all I get to do is relive it through YouTube videos and go, that could have been me. Honestly, I probably think we won't see an attraction like that built again. Closest thing we'll get to is VR, and you can do that at home now. So put on a good headset, some VR, and you can crap your pants like you could have on Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter. Tyler Ayala asks, what abandoned theme park would you want to go back in time to experience firsthand? This park didn't open such a long time ago. It's already closed. I have been fascinated with it, even when they were doing the construction and the announcement. That That's Hard Rock Park in South Carolina. Just something about its story is so depressing and sad, but interesting at the same time. I mean, the park literally opened April 15th, 2008 and closed September 24th, 2008, only to reopen under a new name in 2009 and then close after that season. Park was barely open for 2 years before they said that's it, and now it's just sitting there abandoned. Our friend Sam at Expedition Theme Park did a really good video on it. I'll leave a link to it down below. Take a look at that because it's one of those what if stories of you have a really cool concept with hard rock behind it, attractions that are based off of bands with their music. I thought it was new and exciting and different when compared to Universal and Disney, and it's just amazing that after literally a year and a half, 2 years, that was it. They closed up shop, they removed half the attractions, and now the land I think is just sitting there barren. There's a lot of abandoned videos on it too, people going there and checking out the area. But yeah, check out Sam's video if you want to learn more. He goes into great detail about it. But I would want to go back in time to experience that park because I was always interested in it, and I thought it was, again, really cool, and I wanted to see what it looked like firsthand. Liam Prattley asks, do you prefer Universal Studios Florida or Universal Studios Hollywood in terms of their rides? For myself, it would be Florida over Hollywood. It's nothing against the Hollywood park, but they never had the intention of becoming a full-blown theme park until a couple of years ago, and honestly, most of the attractions that were already in place at Hollywood, same things in Florida. T2 3D, Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem, Transformers, The Mummy, they're all there, so I don't really see any reason for me to go to Hollywood. Obviously, if they get Nintendo Land before Florida, that might entice me to travel across the country, but if you said pick one of the parks, I'll take Florida. Andrew Deneve, Noah Naravet, and Night Foxy Plays asks, if you could change one ride back to its original state at Universal and Disney, which one would you change? For Disney, I would change Stitch's Great Escape back to Extraterrestrial Encounter so I can actually experience it myself, and for Universal, I probably would change The Simpsons and the entire Springfield area back to the Future, but make the existing area Hill Valley in 1955, 2015, 1985, and 1885, just to change things up a bit. Nothing against the Simpsons ride, it was good when it opened, but again, it's not that popular anymore, and it kind of feels like it's just, it's on borrowed time. Definitely would prefer to have the Back to the Future attraction, not only because I like the ride more, but I'm also a huge fan of the Back to the Future movie franchise. Evan Black asks, at Disneyland, what ride would you want to preserve? The attraction I would preserve is the Haunted Mansion. I feel like that is the pinnacle of Disney Imagineering at the time, and it's still a very good attraction that holds up to this day. Natalie Brown asks what our favorite holiday event at a theme park is. I really like Christmas time at Disney. They do a really good job of it, not only seeing it in person, but also seeing it on television for a very long time. That's basically what would be on our television every Christmas morning, is the Disney parade and all that good stuff, and their blatant advertisement of the parks and the resorts and everywhere else you can go that's Disney. But I personally like Halloween Horror Nights the best of any holiday event. It's just, it goes above and beyond anything really that I've experienced for haunted houses and, you know, those type of events. Christmas, I've been to a lot that kind of compare to Disney, not really the same, but a lot of tree lightings, a lot of exhibits and all that. I don't really see that much for Halloween, probably because these places don't have the budget for it, but I've always grown to liking the icons and the stories and the build up to the actual reveals of the houses, so I like Halloween Horror Nights the most for a holiday event at a theme park. The Tevinator asks, what do you feel is the greatest simulator ride of all time? I mean, this is an easy one, isn't it? It gotta be Spider-Man. I don't know any other attraction out there that compares to what Spider-Man has done and still does. I know some people like to say Transformers, but let's not get it twisted. Transformers is a copy of Spider-Man. If Spider-Man didn't come out, then Transformers would be on the top of the list for myself, but yeah, there's nothing touching Spider-Man as the best simulator attraction created. JDog44 asks, what is your favorite live show at a theme park? It's not around anymore, but it is Terminator 2 3D. Honestly, I don't do a lot of live shows at the parks. I usually just move on to the attractions and whatnot. I didn't mind Lights Motors Action Stunt Show. I thought that was really good too, but I always had something for Terminator. I like the franchise, and the show itself is pretty cool because of obviously what it did with 3D, live action, the blend of the two. I haven't really seen anything like that done since. And honestly, like I said, I like Terminator. I like Arnold a lot, so I kind of gravitate towards Terminator more than any other live show. Anthony Muscat asks, what theme park would you like to visit that you haven't previously been to? I probably have to get to Disneyland sometime before I die. Honestly, just getting to the West Coast so I can experience Disneyland, Disney California Adventure, Universal Studios, Hollywood, Knott's Berry Farm. Pretty sure there's a couple other ones I can't think of off the top of my head. But Disneyland is definitely number one on my list of theme parks I still need to go and experience for myself. Francis Robleu, sorry Francis, I just butchered that. I tried to do my best French impersonation. And Nico Samuel asks, what is your most anticipated rumor attraction coming to Universal or Disney? You know, Disney doesn't really have anything rumored at the moment. I am really excited to see the Tron coaster come to Walt Disney World. It looks really cool and I want to experience it myself. As for Universal, it's just been the rumors of what type of attractions are coming to Nintendo Land, wherever that's going to be, whether it's the new park or inside Universal Studios Florida. The rumor that has me all giddy is the possibility of a Donkey Kong Country minecart coaster incorporating a Kuka arm to feel like you're jumping every time the track disappears. That, for me, has been something I've wanted to experience since I started playing that game when I was like 6 years old. So if they actually are able to pull that off, I will probably feel like the 6-year-old again, turning on the SNES for the first time and experiencing Donkey Kong Country. Our next question comes from Michael. Thank you, Michael. You've been a long-time fan of the channel. I really appreciate your support. Michael's question is, would you want to see the Lost Continent completely removed, or have it not only remain as one of the last original attractions / islands, but be updated the same way Jurassic Park is rumored to be? You know, Michael, I don't really have any problems with the Lost Continent. The problem with it right now is it's just a sitting duck, right? Because obviously Jurassic Park is staying where it's changing over to Jurassic World. Potter isn't going anywhere, Marvel isn't going anywhere, and neither seems to be Dr. Seuss. So really, when you're talking about major revamps at Islands of Adventure, it's either Toon Lagoon or the Lost Continent. From a business standpoint, it makes the most sense to replace the Lost Continent. It lost half of its attractions. Sinbad just closed down, so basically all you have is a restaurant, and Poseidon's Fury, which, let's be honest, it's a cool attraction, but it really takes up a lot of space and doesn't really draw people in anymore. As much as I would like to see the Lost Continent stay, my gut tells me that it's going to change over to something, and you know, if it does turn over to Hyrule, I wouldn't be against it. Honestly, it's a shame to see what's happened to the Lost Continent. It was a really cool part of Islands of Adventure when it opened, and you know, it's just been overtaken by IPs that just do much better and draw more traffic to the park. Jonathan Wallace asks, do you think there might be some hope for Universal to create more fun and exciting attractions in the future? I really want Universal to step up their game in the future and not rely on the same formulaic cookie-cutter simulator rides they are constantly making every year. I love Universal, but I know they can try way harder than what they're currently doing now. Well, Jonathan, I think you're in for a surprise, because all the signs and the rumors point to the new Harry Potter attraction not being screen-based, not being a cookie-cutter attraction. It's something new, unique, and exciting. I've heard there's animatronics, I hear there's special effects. It seems like that attraction's going back to the 2000s, like a Revenge of the Mummy attraction where Men in Black alien attack. So there's still hope. Honestly, for anything to be different with Universal, it's all going to come down to what they do with Nintendo. Are we going to see simulator rides and screens in 3D? Maybe in some shape or form, but honestly, if it's presented differently than the attractions they have now at the parks, I'd be fine with it. Honestly, I'd rather see something like Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, a combination of screens with animatronics and special effects. I think that would work for Nintendo attractions, let alone just any attraction they're going to be building going forward. However, I hate to say this, but that's only going to be for the more expensive attractions, the one that cost Universal a lot of money to get. Obviously, things like Potter and Nintendo. So for their own IPs, I don't know if we're going to see anything different. I don't know if we're going to see new and unique attractions like we did in the 2000s for every ride they're building. I think we're going to be stuck in some shape or form with a simulator, with a screen, or 3D. And again, I'd like to be proven wrong, but Universal's track record shows it's going to stay that way. But you have to remember this, these aren't the decisions being made by Universal, it's their parent company, it's Comcast. Comcast wants to get a new attraction out every year. How's the quickest way to do that? Use screens and simulators. Easy enough. So So, yeah, I think it's going to be a mix going forward. My fingers are crossed for more of what we remember than what we're getting now, but you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if most of the attractions stay the same. Christian Hendricks asks, what do you think of the Nintendo and Universal Parks partnership and having rides at Universal Parks based on Nintendo brand games like Mario, Zelda, and Donkey Kong? To be honest with you, I never thought it would happen. If you follow video games, you know that Nintendo for the longest time was very protective of its brand. It didn't want to branch out. Basically, they wanted full creative control of anything they were doing, and they didn't want anybody else touching their stuff. Now, over the last 5 years, we've seen a change in that. We see that there's now mobile games, there's movies coming out, Detective Pikachu, and obviously now Universal and Nintendo are making theme park rides. It's probably always been the biggest thing I've wanted for Nintendo, is for them to create their own theme park, and no, Nintendo Land does not count. Honestly, I'm pretty excited to see what's going to happen with these attractions based off of video games I grew up with. It comes down to what Universal can do, and you know that Nintendo isn't going to settle for simulator rides, at least I hope so, fingers crossed. I hope Reggie comes and he tells them no freaking way, man. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm just disappointed right now because I usually go to the Florida parks and they haven't even started construction yet. So that most likely means either I'm gonna have to go to Hollywood or Japan first to experience it, and you know, those are trips. I might finally be making the pilgrimage to get out to California or travel to Japan. Sick Shock and Dominic Huddy wants to know our thoughts on Universal creating screen-based attractions versus animatronics and practical effects. You can call me old school, but I prefer to have practical effects and animatronics over screens. You know, I went to that park in the 90s. I grew up on that park in the 90s, and there was only two at the time. It was Hanna-Barbera and Back to the Future. And I'm not against screen-based attractions. That's fine. I don't care if you use them in attractions, especially as transitions. Look at Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey and how well they work. But honestly, the problem with the screen-based attractions is how many Universal has in their parks. It kind of dilutes how well every attraction is when everybody realizes this is almost exactly the same thing. It's kind of like sports games every year that come out. I don't have anything against sports games like Madden and NBA 2K, but guess what? Everything usually stays the same. The only difference is a couple new features here and there, and guys got traded to different teams. I kind of feel like that's what it is right now with the Universal attractions. It's like, oh hey, you got The Simpsons, you got Despicable Me, you have Fast and Furious, you have Transformers, you have Harry Potter and Escape from Gringotts, you have Jimmy Fallon. Everything is screens and screens and screens and screens. It sometimes becomes too much, and it's just really hurts me to see the park like that. Honestly, they should build more attractions like The Mummy, like Men in Black, like E.T., but guess what? They won't, because it's very hard to copy that and bring it to all the parks. It's not cost effective. It costs a lot of money to build those animatronics and to keep them and maintain them, versus a simulator, which is basically a projector and a screen. You only have to update the projector and the ride vehicle every once in a while. Also, practical effects, they're not around anymore because obviously things like flames cost a lot of money with gas, so that's why you've kind of seen Universal go this route. It's cost effective, you can put it in any park, and really it's easy to create. Everything's in front of a green screen, and then they just program the computers to make the simulator go up, down, left, right, do whatever it has to do. I mean, obviously they're going to try to buck the trend with the new Harry Potter roller coaster at Islands of Adventure, but outside of that ride, we have no clue what's going to happen with Nintendo. You know, I'm pretty sure most of those attractions are going to have to be simulators and screens, because how else are you going to emulate a video game like that? But I do agree with both of you where I feel the screens are hurting the future of the theme parks, and unless they are able to incorporate other effects with screens, I think it's going to start leading to a decline in people coming to the park. Sure, Harry Potter and Nintendo are reasons to go visit the park, but once they've done it once and they realize that most of the attractions are so similar, I don't think it's a good way to draw people back in. I mean, honestly, I haven't been to Universal in 3 years, and I honestly don't feel like I'm missing anything. Even though they've opened Skull Island, Fast and the Furious, and Jimmy Fallon, none of those attractions are very appealing to me, knowing that 2 of them are basically carbon copies of the tram tour in Hollywood, and why the hell does Jimmy Fallon need his own ride? So that's what I think. I love the parks for what they are, but I do agree that you rely so heavy on one thing, eventually it's going to turn even your most hardcore fans off from wanting to visit the park. Aaron Talmadge and Sour Patch Parent ask, what is the best theme park in the world? So this answer isn't based on theme parks I've I've been to, this is what I think in general of a theme park, based on what I've seen, the park itself, the attractions in it, and I want to say the answer might be surprising, but I don't think it's going to be. It's Tokyo Disney Sea. Honestly, I've never seen a park like it before, and it is really on my bucket list of places to visit before I die. I know it's weird to say that about a theme park, but I run a theme park channel, so obviously a theme park will be on my bucket list. Why do I consider Tokyo Disney Sea to be the best theme park built? Well, for a couple of reasons. I mean, first off, I really like the entire design and the layout of the park itself. I mean, it has a really cool icon, that being Mount Prometheus. It just looks really awesome from all the pictures and video I've seen. And I just like the ideas that they have, whether it's Mediterranean Harbor, Mysterious Island, Mermaid Lagoon, Lost River Delta, Port Discovery. Port Discovery is one of the best areas I've seen ever in a theme park. It's just really cool to look at, and I just think Disney Sea is the best example of, if you let Disney Imagineers do whatever they want, this is what they can come up with. Plus, it has 2 attractions that I want to ride. They're on my must-ride list before I die, that being Journey to the Center of the Earth and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Those are 2 attractions that really stand out to me, especially the Journey to the Center of the Earth. It's something that you don't really see here in Disney parks in the US. It's a shame, because an attraction like that at an Animal Kingdom or somewhere else, I think would be really popular here. But yeah, definitely I have to get to Disney Sea sometime before I get too old to travel. It just seems like a really amazing park, and it has some unique attractions you can't find anywhere else. Shauna Reed asks, what's your home park? And if you don't have one, what would be your pick for a home park? So obviously what Shauna means is, which park would you consider to be your home park, somewhere local to you? Now, I live in New York City. Obviously in Manhattan there's no theme parks. The closest thing many people associate with theme parks in New York City would be Astroland, better known as Luna Park today, but that's not my home park. My home park is about 20 to 25 minutes away from where Astroland, where Luna Park is now. That would be Nellie Bly Park. It's located in Bensonhurst. It's not that far if you're taking the highway. For myself, that is my home park, because for the longest time as a kid, on the weekends my parents would take me there, and that is my first experience with a theme park, or in this case it's an amusement park. And honestly, going to that park so much as a young kid in the summer is probably the reason why I'm such a big fan of theme parks now. I remember myself having birthday parties there, my sister having birthday parties there. It was a very big part of my childhood growing up, and I always looked forward to going to the park. I had to look it up because I wasn't sure. The actual park opened up in 1964, so it was around for a long time. Unfortunately, it would eventually change over to Adventurers Park. I don't remember when though. That's a while, maybe a couple of years ago, because I haven't been there in probably about 10 to 15 years. But I always feel that's my home park, because those are the memories I remember the most as a kid. Besides Universal and Disney, Nellie Bly was my park, and it always will be my park. And even though people probably say it's Adventurers Park now, nobody probably calls it that. They all probably still call it Nellie Bly, because that's what we all remember it as. And again, it wasn't the biggest, it wasn't the best. Astroland probably was better, due in part to all the rides they have, and obviously the Cyclone being right next door. But as a young kid, Nellie Bly was the best way to be broken into theme parks and amusement parks. It had rides aimed for younger children. It was never very packed and crowded. It was like the old days, you have to pay a ticket to get on every attraction. And all I can remember is good memories, having a fun time every time I went to the park. Talking about it now, I actually want to go back to the park and see what it is. Obviously it's not open now. I think they're open seasonal. Maybe I'll actually make a trip one day and see how the park's still doing, if it's still there. Again, I haven't been there in a long time. Man, that brings back, that's nostalgia feels right there. And our last but most asked question for the second part of this Q&A comes from B-Master, Game Fanatic 9997, J. Wall Dubbums III, Mike Hawk, Sebastian Does Stop Motion, Charles P, Fun Hippie, Jacob Vaughn, Braves246, and Twinstastic Tube, who all ask, what's our favorite park and attraction? So this is the big one, right? This is the one everybody wants to know, I guess, based off the questions. So I could do a big, huge build-up, do a drum roll, but I'm not going to, because you probably already know if you've been listening to the rest of the questions we've been answering. My favorite park is Universal Studios Florida. Now, I know the park isn't what it used to be, but I still remember what the park was was back in the 90s, and I've never had an experience like that before, and I love what the park was. Being part of the movies I grew up with is something that I haven't really seen or been able to experience since, and honestly, even though the park isn't what it used to be, I still love it for what it is. It makes sure that you are front and center of every attraction, that you're either the hero or you're along for the ride, and you're not just some passenger, a bystander, and I really like that. Obviously, they push that a lot in their advertisements now. You've seen that with Transformers, Despicable Me, Jurassic Park, and Potter. They want to make you front and center, and I really like that concept. And again, I thought at the time when the park was opening, oh wow, a theme park based off of movies where we're the star of those movies is pretty awesome. As for favorite attraction, I'm gonna do something here, so I'd kind of just save face a little bit. My favorite attraction currently open is Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. He was the first superhero character I kind of really fell for. He's my favorite superhero character, probably due to the animated series that came out in the 90s. I still have all those action figures somewhere in my basement, and I think the Spider-Man attraction is not only cool because it's a Marvel attraction, but the ride system and everything that it's set as a standard for theme park attractions hasn't been matched since. As for my favorite attraction of all time, regardless if it's open or closed, it's Jaws. I know Jaws gets a bad rap for its history, for what the original attraction was, and all the gripes that people have with it being a boring ride, not functioning correctly, the animatronics not being scary, but I still love Jaws for what it was, and I think it's the most immersive attraction Universal has created. I know people like to say Back to the Future, or Kong, or Spider-Man, but Jaws did something that a lot of attractions weren't able to. They managed to create fear in the attraction. Even before you got on that attraction, you already knew the story of Jaws. Great white shark that's coming to eat you. I still have memories of the attraction the first time I went on it because of how terrifying the experience was. Some people might look at that as a bad thing, but I always say to myself that if an attraction can make memories that you can't forget or you don't want to forget, it succeeds in being a very good attraction. Jaws was like this, and the only other time I remember being terrified of an attraction is Revenge of the Mummy. But for me, Jaws has always been the most immersive attraction I've gone on. Because you're in the water, because you're in a boat, because you have a skipper reading a script, setting the story, I just feel like it's the most fleshed out attraction Universal created. I love Back to the Future, but we all can admit that eventually the ride system became jerky and kind of made you sick. I love Confrontation, but Confrontation had the problem where the animatronics would eventually have so much wear and tear, the experience wasn't as great as it was when it first opened. Jaws could get away with that because you never saw the animatronics because they were hidden in the water. Sure, the animatronics weren't as fluid from compared to when they opened, but you know what? You couldn't really tell because do you really know how much a shark moves? Honestly, I just like the overall attraction. I like the tension, I like the build-up, I like the finale. To me, it's probably one of the most complete rides Universal has ever created. So Universal Studios Florida is my favorite park, and Jaws is my favorite attraction of all time. So go ahead, you can go in the comment section now and decide to tear me a new one for my choices, because I'm pretty sure some of you will. So we got one more part, things that didn't relate to theme park history or theme parks themselves in some shape or form. Let's jump right into that. Jason R., Nicole Regari, and Will the Man 222 ask, are there any rides you've covered that you haven't experienced yourself? Well, there's definitely two right off the bat, that being the Haunted Castle, for obvious reasons, it's not around anymore, and the other being Horizons. Fortunately, I never got to experience Horizons. Epcot was the first park my parents stopped taking me to. They weren't really big fans of it, and I can understand why. You know, Epcot really is a park that you gotta appreciate it for what it actually is, and obviously it's not for everybody. I know that a majority of it, especially in the 80s and 90s, was learning, and you know, if you spend a lot of money at a theme park to learn, some people might feel like that's a waste. Now the rest of the question might be a technicality, because technically I've gone on a Jurassic Park ride and a Tower of Terror attraction, but not at Universal Studios Hollywood or at Disney California Adventure. But technically, since they're clones of other attractions, I consider that I did actually go on them, but you know, that's up to what you guys decide. But I do personally consider that I went on Jurassic Park the ride and Twilight Zone's Tower of Terror. Kid Cadet asks, have you ever gotten stuck on a ride? I've gotten stuck on attractions before, but I've never actually been evacuated from any of them. I've been stuck waiting for a ride cycle to end on such attractions as Jurassic Park, and Revenge of the Mummy. Basically what that means is that you're stuck at a specific part until the ride vehicle in front of you finishes up. So like the drop at Jurassic Park and the launch at Revenge of the Mummy. But I've been lucky enough that I really have never been stuck on an attraction, and hopefully that trend continues, because I never want to get stuck on some of these attractions. It just seems like a really terrible time trying to get out. Especially like Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, where if it gets stuck and you need to be evacuated, I think they need to get ladders for you to get down. But I do think it would be a cool experience to see what the attraction would look like when you're walking through. Rosie A asks, what do you remember about the Disney birthday cake castle from the 90s? Love or hate? As a kid, I thought it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I thought it was a really neat transition from the castle to a birthday cake. But now as an adult looking back at it, it's lost its touch. It's lost its charm a little bit. Obviously, Cinderella's castle is one of the most iconic Disney features at a park, and I feel like it's one of those things you just don't touch anymore these days. You can add little things here or there, but completely dressing it up as a birthday cake, that is what I feel like it's literally a 90s thing to do. So I really hope they don't do that for any type of events going forward. Sam Smith asks, if you can go back to your childhood and relive riding any ride for the first time from any park, what ride would it be and why? I don't have a lot of memories from my first time riding attractions outside of things like Jaws and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, but there is one specifically that I remember that I would go back and relive because of the moment itself. That would be my first time riding Revenge of the Mummy. I think I was 13 or 14. I think it was the first year the attraction actually opened. And I just remember going in being very excited. And by the end of the attraction, I was on the verge of tears because of how terrifying the experience was. Now, you might be saying, why? Why that experience? Why that one specific? Because I haven't felt that way on a theme park ride since. And I really miss those feelings of fear and trepidation. Especially the fake loadout is the best, because I was forcing myself to try to get out of the ride because I thought it was over, to only realize that it wasn't, and sitting in the front row and the fire effect going and then looking down and seeing there's another drop. I felt like it was gonna die right there, and I don't get that anymore. Maybe because I know all the attractions, I need to shake things up a bit, but I feel like I lack this feeling of fear and excitement and adrenaline rush. That's what I need in attractions. So I would go back and relive the first time I went on Revenge of the Mummy because of that experience I had. Now, I look forward to that attraction every time, but I know what I'm getting myself into, and I know that I'm going to quote Brendan Fraser at the end of the attraction every time. Danger Doom asks, if you could build your own amusement park and have, let's say, at least 5 themed areas in it, what kind of themes/IPs would you go with? So let's say I was going to select 5 IPs and build around that, right? Something like similar to Islands of Adventure and theming. I have a land dedicated to Pokemon, because I've always wanted to see Pokemon attractions, so a Pokemon Snap ride to some shape or form, and something involving a Pokemon Stadium battle. Then I would do an entire area dedicated to Gotham City, with the main attraction of Gotham City being an attraction where you're in something like the Batmobile or the Bat Tumbler from the Dark Knight series. Also, I probably have something revolving around the Joker. I don't know if you can do something dark and sinister, but I would do something like maybe a haunted house or a fun house. Something that's a little bit sinister, but not really sadistic and torturous as the Joker is. Then I would have an area dedicated to the PlayStation Uncharted series. I feel like those video games would translate well into theme park attractions, where you're on an adventure treasure hunting with Nathan Drake, whether it be from the first, the second, the third, or the fourth game. There's a lot of huge set pieces you could use for attractions, simulators, or whatever you want to consider it to be. For the fourth land, it'd be a combination of monsters and machines. I would have Godzilla and Pacific Rim in it. Basically, you'd have Godzilla, you would have Kaijus, and you would have Jaegers all in that land fighting each other. I mean, that sounds like a great idea, and I won't be surprised if that eventually becomes a movie sometime down the line. And the fifth and last island where IP would be dedicated to the post-apocalyptic wasteland, and specifically Mad Max Fury Road. I think I would try to create an attraction where you're in your own vehicle and all that action from the movies taking place at the same time. Explosions, fighting, crashes, anything like that. Obviously, right off the bat, I would tell you, take cars and just make it Mad Max. So that's the theme park I would build. More of a heavy influence on movies and video games that I like. Andrew Castro asks, if you could ride or experience any attraction before you die, old or new, which one would it be? You know, that's a tough one. there's a handful that I would like to experience before I die. And I don't know if I'll get the chance to because they're not here in the US. The one that sticks out the most to me right now is Mystic Manor. I also like Journey to the Center of the Earth. And another attraction I would want to experience, it's not around anymore, but it'd be Space Mountain from the Earth to the Moon. I always really liked that version of the attraction. I like Disney incorporating Jules Verne's ideas and the steampunk look. Really unique and it stands out compared to our theme park attractions. Those would be the three right now, but if you said pick one, it's Mystic Manor, because it just looks like a really awesome ride and it's peak Disney at the moment. Caleb Haught asks, have you ever worked at any of the parks? I've never worked at a theme park before. I thought I would actually enjoy working at one, and then I realized that I probably wouldn't when dealing with the guests and how much of a lack of patience I would have with them, especially those large groups that come during the summer that aren't from the US. If you've gone to a theme park like Disney or Universal in the summer, you probably know what I'm talking about. Large groups from South America, they all wear the same stupid shirt. They got the one guy that has the flag with them wherever they go. I'm sorry if I'm ranting, but I gotta get this out. I despise those groups because they're rude and they constantly try to cut the line to go join their friends. And it's like, yo, you're on the single riders line for Spider-Man. Do you really think the 15 of you are gonna ride together? I mean, this is bringing back a story from a couple years ago, but I remember the attendant that's working that trying to tell this group of people in front of me that they all can't ride together, and it's a single rider line. And they all keep trying to go together while she's trying to tell them one. After like 3 minutes, I would have told them, get out of here! And I probably would have been fired on the spot. So I give them a lot of credit because I'm pretty sure that people working at the theme parks deal with a lot of BS throughout the entire day. And I think I wouldn't have the patience to deal with that. Maybe a couple of them, but after a while, I'd probably get really annoyed. Also, who thinks it's a good idea to wear sandals at a theme park? I mean, seriously, that's another thing that always stood out about those groups. Sandals. You lose your shoe, and then you're expecting them to get your shoe back? Yeah, good luck. You're walking barefoot where you're spending $40 on a pair of sandals from the park for the rest of your trip. Alright, I'm done ranting. I'm sorry. I don't know where that came from. It's just been a while since I actually spoke about that, so maybe people will relate to me, maybe not, but I felt like I had to get that out. Scrambled59 asks, what do you think is the most exciting thing to come out of the IAAPA 2018 so far? For those who don't know what that is the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. Basically, every year they have an expo where different types of companies will come in and show off the new ride systems and concepts they're working on. It's basically a trade show where they're showing off stuff that they're hoping that theme parks are going to buy. So for me, it was the reveal of, I'm forgetting their name off the top of my head, Dynamic Attractions introducing a dual power coaster, which was, what's the best way to describe it? It's a combination of a motion simulator platform and a roller coaster. Basically, it's like literal cars that are able to spin and drift. They stay on a track that looks like it's moving, but sometimes it actually isn't. It's just a projection. The reason why I'm excited about that is because that's most likely going to be the ride system that's being used for the Mario Kart attraction at Universal Studios. Everything about the dual power coaster just seems like a perfect fit for that type of attraction, and it's going to be interesting to see if that's going to be the case going forward. I'd be pretty shocked if Universal isn't going to use this, or they're trying to create their own type of dual power coaster, but it just seems like it would be easier for them to either work with this company or actually just buy the rights out to having that type of attraction. X86753098858X asks, that was a mouthful. Outside of the Universal Studios and Disney theme parks, what other theme parks have you been to, and are they worth going to in the future? So the other theme parks I've gone to that I can recall going to are SeaWorld in Florida, Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey. I've already mentioned Astroland, now known as Luna Park in Brooklyn, New York, and Nellie Bly Amusement Park in Brooklyn, New York. I've also been to Splish Splash Water Park all the way out in Long Island, New York, and I've also gone as a kid to Sesame Place in Pennsylvania. I don't know where in Pennsylvania. For SeaWorld, I know it's gone through a lot of changes and people don't want to go back after everything that came out about Blackfish, and I understand that. But SeaWorld does have really good and intense roller coasters. If you're into that, I suggest you go to that park. But myself, I haven't been there in a couple years because I'm not really a big fan of the massive roller coasters. Same thing with Six Flags Great Adventure. They have a decent mix now of attractions that are intense roller coasters and ones that I would go on. Some some of the Six Flags are hit and miss from what I've heard. Great Adventure is one of the better of the Six Flags parks. So if you're on the East Coast, I do suggest you can go to Six Flags Great Adventure, or you can travel up to Six Flags New England, but I know Great Adventure is the better of the two. Splish Splash is a water park. I like it, but water parks aren't for everybody, so I don't know if you're going to be into that. As a kid, I love Sesame Place, but it is for kids. It is for young children, so if you're like me, you're only going if you have kids now. So I don't think they're going to let me on the Big Rubber Ducky. I think that's the name of it. I don't even remember. But they're not going to let me go on that by myself. So I'm going to stand out like a sore thumb at Sesame Place. But those are the parks I've visited. Not as many as I would like, but again, over the next couple of years, I'm going to try to change that and get some more theme parks all around the US. Hopefully. Avery Lopez Baines asks, if you were the Disney CEO, what would be the first thing you would do? Well, Avery, if I was the CEO right now, I would demand to see the new trailer for The Avengers, which may or may not be out by the time this video comes out. And if they have a trailer ready, that means they must have the movie ready, so I'd be watching the movie. But if we're gonna be serious for a moment as me being the Disney CEO, there'd be 3 things I would do. The first one's just something that I would personally do. I would greenlight Tron 3. I definitely don't understand why they haven't yet, so I definitely get the ball rolling on it. Second, I would bring every Netflix Marvel series to Disney Plus, and obviously if they were canceled, depending on how popular they were, I'd bring them back. Obviously Daredevil is the one that people are shocked to be canceled, and if we want to get people to subscribe to Disney Plus, it makes sense to have as much entertainment as possible, and people really like those series, so why not continue them? And third, I would immediately tell every Disney Imagineer to get off their ass and to fix the Yeti from Expedition Everest. I only managed to experience the Yeti once, and it's a shame that they haven't been able to fix it since. I know there's a lot of things that go into it, but guess what? That is one of your prime attractions, and Disco Yeti doesn't cut it. Get it working. You can fix everything else, fix the Yeti. Ozzyman Diaz asks, if you were the creative director of Disney's California Adventure, would you like me to tear down the Little Mermaid Ride and turn it into an actual interactive state-of-the-art Little Mermaid Ride? Well, if I'm still the CEO of Disney at this point, go for it, Ozzy. I don't see why not. I definitely would suggest you fix the robots, you make them more lifelike, maybe use the technology that they use in the Frozen attraction over at Epcot, fix the animatronics, make it a little bit more exciting. You have my blessing to do so, okay? But listen, you gotta stay within the budget. That's how Eisner got fired. So we gotta keep things a little bit leveled here, you know? Can't go crazy spending money that we don't have. Then again, we did spend a lot of money on Star Wars and Pixar and Marvel, so maybe we do have money? I don't know. Gravedigger Studios asks, do you have a favorite show that was filmed at Nickelodeon Studios? There is one. There is only one, and it is the best one. My favorite show, and the best show filmed at Nickelodeon Studios, was Legends of the Hidden Temple. That is the thing I wanted the most as a kid. I wanted to be on the Legends of the Hidden Temple. I wanted to go through Olmec's temple. I wanted to put together that shrine of the Silver Monkey after yelling at kids every time I watched them when they got it wrong. They're a bunch of dumbasses. It would just look like it was so fun. But for me as a kid, that was like something on my bucket list. Like, if I go to Florida, I'm always going to Nickelodeon Studios. Maybe they're gonna do recordings, and maybe I can actually run Olmec's temple. Oh, and if anybody's asking what team, there's only one team, the best team, the Silver Snakes. I don't care about your blue iguanas, your purple parrots. I still watch as much as I can that's on YouTube. It's a shame that Gas doesn't exist anymore, because I would watch that constantly. You know, shows like Nickelodeon Arcade, Guts, Global Guts, Double Dare. Finders Keepers, I think, is underrated. I really liked Finders Keepers a lot. But definitely growing up, watching Nickelodeon, anytime Legend of the Hidden Temple was on, I stopped whatever I was doing, including homework, to watch whatever the terrible tale was going to be for that episode. Alora Ramos asks, are you married? I know that's a weird question, but you always have, no offense, a sad voice. What are you implying, Alora? Are you implying that I'm depressed because of my wife? That I'm sad because of my wife? That I'm never happy because of my wife? You know who said the same exact thing? My wife. That's why she took the cats and she left, and all I have now is theme park history. That is a bit. I am not married. Don't take that the wrong way. Now people are gonna start thinking that I've lost my family because of this channel. It's not true. I don't know if I have a sad voice. Nobody else has told me that. But guess what? I'll use a happier voice to answer the next 2 of your questions. Maybe that will change things a bit. So let me try. Let me try to put on I guess the best way, the YouTube voice, like the voice that most YouTubers use, to answer the next 2 questions. Do you think SeaWorld is a bad park that hurts animals, or are those rumors? Well, Laura, I don't think SeaWorld's a bad park. I just think they made a lot of mistakes when it came to treating their animals that way. Obviously, some people won't forgive SeaWorld for what they did, even though they're trying to fix their image. People still are going to remember what they saw when they watched Blackfish. Do you think that Universal will be announcing the construction of Nintendo Land soon, or far from now? That's a really good question, Alora. Well, I think they're going to announce something after Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opens up. That way, they won't lose any thunder or lightning when they actually make the announcements of what attractions are going to be coming to those parks. Or better yet, when they announce their new theme park that's coming to Florida. So, that's my happy voice, Alora. How does that sound compared to this? This is just a rib, don't take it the wrong way. I've been told before that I always sound tired, or drowsy, or just bored. I can't put on a fake voice. This is who I actually am. But maybe in the future, I'll have to use this voice if I want to keep the channel going to be popular. Or I'm just going to make it a rib. Maybe I'll just make two people, two different split personalities on the channel. Don't be giving me these ideas. But I hope that answered your questions in a fun and unsad way. Fluffy Turbious Dog wants to know, what music do you like? You know, I won't say that I have a great taste in music. I know that sounds weird to say, but I listen to a lot of music and I never really am able to kind of just select one thing in particular. That kind of goes back to things like my friends and my exes, and so it's more of like a mixed pot, a messy mixed pot of music I listen to. Lately I've been on a tear of electronic music, lo-fi, and vaporwave. I know that's really weird to say out loud. I'll put up a couple of the channels that I listen to constantly here on YouTube. I listen to most of that stuff in the background when I'm working on the videos, or just in general, especially when I'm driving around. But if you're asking for specific artists that I listen to, here's a couple that are constantly on repeat, whether it's on my phone or in my car from CDs. Bands like Dance Gavin Dance, Vampire Weekend, Brand New, Taking Back Sunday, Discovery, who else? Jack White, whether it's the White Stripes or by himself, the Black Keys, Home, Matt and Kim, LCD Sound System, Two Door Cinema Club. I really like their first album a lot. Beastie Boys, Childish Gambino, Daft Punk, Kid Cudi, Kanye West's early stuff. I don't really like his new stuff, which is probably going to be blasphemous to some people. I like Late Registration a lot. Video game soundtracks. Lately, I've been on a tear of that. Some movie soundtracks as well, like The Social Network. I think that's a really good soundtrack if you're just looking for background noise. I really can't think of anything else. That's just off the top of my head. So as you can see, it's messy. There's a lot there that I listen to. I'm open to giving anything a chance at least once to listen to. And again, I'm not really picky with music anymore because you can stream anything. So it wasn't like back in the day where you had to pick and choose what you were going to download or what you're going to purchase from iTunes. Now you can basically listen to anything you want and you're not restricted by it. So I think that's really cool. And I think that's what's helped me broaden a little bit more than what I used to listen to. Joel Hernandez wants to know, what do you do besides YouTube? Besides YouTube, I have a couple other hobbies. Video games is a big one. I think I mentioned it earlier in this Q&A, but video games are a very important part of who I am. I've been playing them since I'm 3 years old. With this video coming out, I believe on the 7th, that means that Smash Ultimate came out today. So there's a very good chance you're not going to see me reply to anyone's comments in this video because I'm going to be too busy trying to unlock every character and just playing the game. So there's video games, basketball. I've been playing basketball and watching it since I'm like 4 or 5 years old. Lucky enough to watch Jordan in his prime, see Kobe in his prime, Shaq, Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon, Iverson. Now you got guys like LeBron, Steph Curry, Westbrook, Durant. You know, basketball, I've always liked basketball the most as a sport. Played it a lot in grade school, played a little bit of it in high school, still play a little bit of rec league here and there. I was always either a small forward or a power forward, more of a 3-and-D type of guy. That's more of an old school thing now, I think, with basketball. You don't really see 3-and-D guys on the court anymore. You gotta be able to shoot and you gotta be able to score in the NBA for it to work. But I don't play as much as I used to because as I've gotten older, my knees have gotten shot, and I always feel like I'm always one bad move away from really messing up my knee. I'm into fantasy sports and daily fantasy sports a little bit. My friends always do a league. It's always fun. I don't mind doing the research, looking into things, and trying to figure out the best lineup I can put in to win. And other than that, I think the only other thing I could talk about is that, again, this goes back from being a young kid and my parents watching wrestling. I grew up on wrestling. I grew up on the WWE. I always liked it more than the WCW. But now I don't really watch as much WWE because I don't really think the product is good at the moment. It's terrible writing. I don't have time to sit through 3 hours of a Raw. I like NXT a lot. I like New Japan a lot. I'd rather watch that type of wrestling than watch what the product is right now on the main slate for the WWE. Stitch Underground asks, what advice could you give to YouTubers who want to do this in the future? So my advice to anybody who's thinking about creating a YouTube channel is very simple. Go for it. Honestly, I've seen this mindset with people where they want to create YouTube content, but they're too scared that people are going to think it sucks. And the honest truth is, it is going to suck when you first start. Everybody is terrible when they start. I mean, I cringe when I watch Twister when I go back and realize how many times I butchered words, but guess what? You get better at it. You start figuring out what you can do to get better overall with your audio, with your video, what you can do to stand out. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your YouTube channel. It takes time. Unless you go viral, building an audience isn't going to happen overnight. It takes a lot of time. And just besides time, there's obviously other factors in there. How interesting is the topics you're covering? How do you stand out when compared to other channels similar to yours? It's one thing to create a channel, it's another thing to create a personality behind it, to create a branding. Sure, you could be like everybody else and create a Fortnite channel, but the real question is, what makes your Fortnite channel stand out versus everybody else's? If you're trying to be like Ninja, guess what? It ain't gonna work because you're not Ninja. Create something you would want to watch, something you would be interested in, and not something that people might be interested in because it's popular. I think that's enough ranting, trying to give life advice to people who want to do YouTube. You want the short and simple of it? Go out there, create content, work on it, get better, and for the love of God, don't sub for sub. It doesn't help anybody. It's just boosting your numbers, and when people see you have 10,000 subscribers but your videos get 3 views, they're gonna know something's up. So I think that is every question. Oh, wait a minute. I guess found the bombshell. This is the most controversial question we've had in this Q&A. I hope everybody's ready because it's gonna be a very controversial answer as well. I wasn't gonna answer it, but I like having hot topics, so here it is. Maul Nunez wants to know, do you play Fortnite? LOL. I do play Fortnite, but I'm not very good at it. Here are my stats. They're terrible. They are not good at all. I enjoy Fortnite. I was really good at it, or I should say I was better at it in the first 2 seasons when nobody realized they could build. Now when everybody builds these giant stacks and whatnot, I'm lucky if I can build a 2x2 without getting destroyed first. I usually stick to squads and 50-50 because I don't die as quick. I still like Fortnite, but I haven't played it as much as I did in Season 5. Honestly, I've given PUBG another chance. I know that's blasphemy to some people, and while PUBG's gotten better, especially on like the Xbox One, I'll still take Fortnite any day of the week. So that's going to do it for the 25K Q&A Spectacular. Once again, a huge thank you to everybody who left a question. I do apologize if I didn't get to everybody's question in this video. There was a lot. I tried to pick out as many as I could. I'll try to meet you halfway with this. If I didn't answer your question in this video, you can leave it down below in the comments section, and hopefully when I get to time, I'll answer your question. I know you'd rather see it in the video itself, but I'll still try to answer everybody's question as best as I can. Again, thank you to everybody who's helped us hit 25,000 subscribers. I really mean it. I never thought we would hit 25,000 subscribers in less than a year. Now we're closer to 30,000, and it doesn't look like this train's gonna be stopping anytime soon. So once again, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching our videos, and until next time, shit, I don't have anything to end it with, just like the last video. Alright, so another life lesson. Look both ways before you cross the street. I've seen this trend lately of people looking down their phones when crossing the street. You never know if the people driving are on their phones and not paying attention to the road. You're gonna get killed. So yeah, that's Jack's lesson of the day. Until next time, kids. My god, is that how I'm gonna end this video?